Hunting has always been my way of escaping the noise of everyday life. There's something calming about the solitude of the forest, the stillness, the quiet. I've been doing it for years, and I thought I'd seen it all, until that morning. It was late autumn, the kind of crisp, cool day that makes your breath visible in the air. I had woken up before dawn to get to my favorite hunting spot, a clearing bordered by a dense forest and an open field that stretched as far as the eye could see. The field was always empty, untouched except for the occasional deer passing through. That day was no different, or so I thought. As I sat quietly in my hide, waiting for the sun to rise, the world around me began to stir. Birds chirped faintly in the trees, and the wind whispered through the tall grass of the field. Everything felt normal, peaceful. And then, I heard it. A scream. It was faint at first, almost drowned out by the wind, but unmistakable. It wasn't an animal, this was human. The sound cut through the silence like a knife, raw and full of terror. I froze, my instincts kicking in. My first thought was that someone might be hurt or in trouble. But as I scanned the field and the tree-line beyond, I saw nothing. The scream came again, louder this time, echoing across the empty field. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding small against the vastness of the open land. No reply. Just the eerie, oppressive quiet. I grabbed my rifle and cautiously stepped out of my hide, my boots crunching on the frosty grass. The screams continued, uneven and desperate, but they seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The field was still empty, the forest still dark. As I moved closer to the edge of the field, the screams grew louder. My heart was pounding now, my mind racing with questions. Who was out there? Were they hurt? Why couldn't I see anyone? Then, just as suddenly as they had started, the screams stopped. The silence was deafening. I stood there, my breath visible in the cold morning air, scanning the horizon. There was no movement, no sign of life. The only sound was the wind rustling through the grass. I took another step forward, and that's when I noticed it, a patch of grass in the middle of the field, trampled and flattened, as if something had been thrashing there. Cautiously, I made my way to the spot. The closer I got, the more uneasy I felt. The ground beneath the grass was damp, muddy, but there were no footprints, no signs of struggle, nothing to indicate what, or who, had been there. And then I saw them. Tracks. Not human tracks, and not like any animal I'd ever seen. They were long and narrow, with deep grooves, as though claws had dug into the earth. The tracks didn't make sense. They started abruptly in the middle of the trampled grass and ended just as suddenly a few feet away. It was as if whatever had been there had appeared out of nowhere, and vanished just as quickly. A chill ran down my spine. I took a step back, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, when the screams started again. This time, they were behind me. I spun around, my heart racing, but the field was still empty. The screams were louder now, closer, yet I could see nothing. My pulse thundered in my ears as I turned in circles, trying to pinpoint the source. And then, I realized something that made my blood run cold. The screams weren't echoing anymore. They were coming from above. I looked up, and for a split second, I thought I saw something, a dark, shadowy shape moving against the pale morning sky. But before I could focus, it disappeared, swallowed by the clouds. The screams stopped. I stood there, frozen, clutching my rifle like it could somehow protect me from whatever was out there. The field was quiet again, the wind carrying the faint smell of damp earth and frost. I didn't wait to find out what would happen next. I ran back to my truck, my boots slipping on the wet grass as I sprinted across the field. When I reached it, I didn't even bother stowing my gear properly. I just threw it into the back seat and sped off, gravel flying as I tore down the dirt road. I haven't been back to that spot since. Every now and then, I think about the tracks in the grass and the screams in the air. I've tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, or maybe some kind of animal I didn't recognize. But deep down, I know better. Something was out there that morning. And whatever it wasn't human.